There's a statement that was released at 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday night that no network replayed in full, not because it wasn't important, because it was too carefully constructed to be dismissed, too precisely documented to be ignored, and too jointly signed for any single target to absorb the impact alone. By Thursday morning, the statement had been read aloud in its entirety on 14 different podcasts. By Thursday afternoon, it had been printed and distributed outside 3 network affiliate buildings in New York and Los Angeles. By Friday, 4 members of Congress had entered portions of it into the congressional record. The statement was 340 words long. It contained no insults, no humor, no appeals to emotion. It was the kind of document that arrives like a door being closed quietly. No slam, no announcement, just the soft, final sound of a latch engaging. 3 men signed it. They had never shared a stage, never coordinated a public statement, never agreed on anything publicly before that night. They agreed on this. Go back 48 hours earlier, before the statement, before the signatures, to the moment the FCC's letter arrived and 3 separate networks were handed 3 separate pieces of paper that said, in formal regulatory language, the same thing. The Ed Sullivan Theater is 23 degrees cooler than the street outside on the night Colbert reads the FCC inquiry letter on camera for the first time. He doesn't announce that he's going to read it. He doesn't frame it as a moment. He simply places it on the desk at the start of the monologue, looks at it for a beat, and begins. His voice is the voice of someone who has been waiting for the right moment to speak and has decided that the right moment is now, while the letter is still in his hand and the ink is still fresh enough to mean something. The letter runs to 3 pages. It references the FCC's January 2026 guidance, reinterpreting the equal time rule. A rule that had been dormant for decades, applied once to a Jay Leno interview in 2006, and then set aside as industry practice evolved. The new guidance, issued on January 21st, the day after the presidential inauguration, clarifies that late-night talk shows are no longer presumed exempt. The letter does not accuse Colbert of a specific violation. It opens an inquiry. It asks for documentation. It requests records of every political candidate interview aired in the preceding 18 months, every booking decision, every instance in which a candidate appeared and an opponent did not receive equivalent airtime. Colbert reads it straight through. No commentary, no jokes. When he finishes, he places it back on the desk with both hands. I want to be completely accurate about what this is, he says. His voice is level, not angry, not performing calm. Just accurate, the way certain people are accurate when accuracy is the most devastating tool available. This is a letter from a government agency, led by a chairman appointed by the President of the United States, asking me to justify my editorial decisions to the federal government. He looks at the camera. I've read the First Amendment several times. I don't remember the part where that was permitted. The audience doesn't cheer. They don't laugh. A sound runs through the studio that is somewhere between a murmur and an exhale. The sound of people processing something that is both expected and, now that it has arrived, still somehow shocking in its specificity. You could feel it that night, watching from home, that something had shifted, not broken, shifted, the way tectonic plates shift, invisible until the ground moves under your feet, and then completely, irreversibly real. Across town, at the same hour Colbert is reading his letter, Jimmy Kimmel is on the phone with his legal team. His letter arrived the same morning. Different language, same structure, same regulatory basis, same January 21st guidance as its foundation. ABC's legal department has already been in contact with the FCC's Enforcement Bureau. Disney's corporate communications team has already drafted 3 different holding statements. The network's position is cautious, measured, institutional. The position of a corporation that has already been through one suspension and has no appetite for another. Kimmel's position is different. He reads the letter again, alone, at his desk. A production assistant who brought him coffee that afternoon later said he was completely still when she entered the room. Not frozen, not upset, just very, very quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before a decision, not after one. He thanked her for the coffee. She left. He picked up the phone. At 9:14 p.m., Seth Meyers receives a call. He is in his office at 30 Rockefeller Plaza, where his own letter has been sitting on his desk since 2 p.m. His network's legal team has already advised him in writing to limit public comment. He reads the advice. He sets it aside. He picks up the phone. The 3 calls happen in overlapping sequence, each one short, each one arriving at the same conclusion without any of them using the word statement until the 3rd call, when Kimmel says it first and the other 2 say yes before he finishes the sentence. They are not friends. They are not allies in any formal sense. They occupy competing time slots on competing networks. Their audiences overlap, but do not coincide. Their comedic sensibilities are different enough that they have never been compared favorably in the same review. What they share, on this particular Wednesday, is a piece of government correspondence that arrived with their names on it and a federal agency's letterhead at the top. That is sufficient. The draft is written in Myers's office, revised in 3 exchanges, and finalized at 11:22 p.m. A lawyer reviews it once, makes 2 small changes. The 3 men approve the changes in under 4 minutes, a response time that suggests they were not undecided about any of it. The statement is released at 11:47 p.m. through a joint press service. It is not sent to any network or media outlet in advance. It is simply published simultaneously on the official websites of all 3 shows, and the text is identical on all 3 pages. It reads, in part, "We have each received formal inquiry correspondence from the Federal Communications Commission requesting documentation of our editorial decisions regarding political guests. We are responding jointly because the inquiry, despite arriving in 3 separate envelopes, contains identical language, identical regulatory citations, and an identical basis in guidance issued on January 21, 2026, the first business day of the current administration. We are not responding jointly because we are afraid. We are responding jointly because the architecture of what has been constructed here is clearer when viewed from 3 angles simultaneously, and we believe the American public is entitled to see the full structure." The word lands at the end of the paragraph like a stone dropped into still water. Architecture, not accident, not overreach, not regulatory enthusiasm. Architecture, a thing that was designed, a thing with a blueprint, a thing that was built deliberately, piece by piece, with the specific intention of standing. The statement continues for 6 more paragraphs. It names the dates, it names the guidance, it names the chairman. It names the merger approval process through which CBS's parent company, Paramount, required FCC sign-off, and the timeline of FCC scrutiny that coincided precisely with Colbert's most pointed coverage of the administration. It names the investigation into NBC's DEI programs that was opened within weeks of Myers' coverage of the same subject. It names the license threat that preceded Kimmel's suspension. Each paragraph is 1 brick. Together, they build something that has a specific shape, and the shape is not coincidence. The final paragraph reads, "We are not silenced. We are not intimidated. We are not, individually or collectively, finished. What we are is documented. And documentation, it turns out, is exactly what a government inquiry demands. We are happy to provide it." Colbert is the first to walk out the next morning. The Late Show studio is dark. CBS canceled the program months earlier. But he arrives anyway at 9 a.m. and films a 4-minute video in the empty studio with a single camera and no crew. The desk is still there. The chair is still there. The lights are off. He films in the ambient light coming through the stage door, which someone has propped open with a cinder block. He reads the joint statement aloud, in full, in the dark studio, alone. He uploads it himself. No network, no publicist, no distribution deal. He uploads it to YouTube, which is not regulated by the FCC, and in the description writes, "For the record." Within 3 hours, the video has been viewed 9 million times. By evening, it is at 26 million. The image, Colbert in a dark studio, empty chair beside him, reading 3 paragraphs into a single camera, becomes the image of the week, the month, possibly the year. It is placed beside the FCC inquiry letter on every platform that covers it, side by side. The government document and the man it was sent to, the architecture and the person standing inside it, naming every beam, every joint, every load-bearing wall. That night, at 2:17 a.m., a senior official at a major news organization receives an encrypted communication from a source with verified, documented access to FCC internal communications planning. 7 sentences. The source confirms that the January 21st guidance was not drafted in response to a specific complaint or regulatory gap. It was prepared in advance of the inauguration, reviewed at the commissioner level, and issued on the first available business day as a deliberate opening move. The source's final sentence, "The architecture was deliberate. I cannot remain silent about the deliberateness when the people who were targeted have already named it accurately." The organization verifies the source against 2 prior confirmed exchanges. They publish the communication at 4:44 a.m. By 6 a.m., it has been read by every major media legal team in New York. By 8 a.m., 3 First Amendment attorneys have given public statements. By noon, the statements phrase, The architecture of what has been constructed here is being quoted in congressional floor remarks, law school lectures, and the comment sections of platforms that have never previously discussed broadcast regulation. Trump's response arrives at 1:33 p.m. 3 washed-up losers who nobody watches anymore crying about fairness. The FCC is doing its job. Equal time is the law. The post is placed beside the joint statement's final paragraph, the one about documentation, and the placement requires no commentary. The rage post and the documented, lawyer-reviewed, precisely sourced statement exist in the same frame. Everyone can see both. Everyone does the reading. The backstage footage from the morning of Colbert's dark studio video shows him arriving alone, carrying a single printed page. The joint statement folded in thirds, the way you fold a letter before placing it in an envelope. He unfolds it at the desk, smooths it once with the flat of his hand, looks at it for a moment before the camera starts. A floor manager who let him into the building said he seemed very calm, not resigned, not defeated. The specific calm, she said, of someone who has already decided what they're going to do and is simply doing it now. The empty chair beside him in the video has become the symbol most attached to the story. 2 chairs, one occupied, one not. Not empty by absence, but empty by the specific, documented regulatory pressure of a government that tried to ensure it stayed that way. People who have never watched late-night television share the image with a single caption over and over in 14 languages. The chair is still there. The architecture is still standing. It has windows now. Everyone can see through them. The question of who lives inside it, and who built it, and when, and why, and what it was designed to contain, has not been answered in any official filing. The inquiry letters are still active. The guidance is still in effect. The documentation is still being compiled. And 3 men who have never agreed on anything are still, as of tonight, in complete agreement about one thing. Silence was never going to be the answer. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next letter hasn't arrived yet, but it's already been drafted.